It's spring, and you're standing in the garden center again, staring at the bags. Fertilizer for the tomatoes, fertilizer for the beans, a different blend for the greens. You do the math in your head, and it's the same number as last year, only higher. Every spring, the same bags, the same bill, the same promise that this year your harvest will finally be worth what you spent. And meanwhile, your plants grow the way they always grow. Fine, but never what the bag promised. I want you to stop and think about this for a minute, because there was a time when farmers grew food without a single bag of anything, and one of them claimed he could triple his harvest with a piece of copper wire. No chemicals, no machines, no power line. Just a coil of wire catching energy that falls on every garden, every day, for free. And the strangest part of the story isn't the wire, it's how thoroughly the world was made to forget it. When I was a boy, my grandfather kept a coil of copper wire in his tool shed, wound careful around a piece of wood, and he never explained it to me. He'd stick it in the ground near his tomato rows every spring, tip pointing north, and his tomatoes were the pride of the church auction every August. I thought it was superstition. It took me 40 years to learn it was physics. Let me tell you who I am. My name is Jacob Miller. I'm an Amish farmer out in the Holmes County settlement here in Ohio, and my wife is Rebecca. We grow our food the old way. No synthetic fertilizer, no sprays we can't pronounce. And methods like this one, working with the energy that's already in the air and soil, are as natural to us as harnessing a horse. And I'll be honest with you about that title straight off, the way I always am. Triples your harvest is the old claim, from photographs 100 years old, and I can't promise you that. What I can show you is the measured, verified truth, which is remarkable enough. And the simple coil you can build this week for less than a cup of coffee. Let me show you. Before we get into it, if you like learning the old ways of doing things, do two small things for me. Tap that like button down there. It helps this little channel more than you'd ever guess. And subscribe so you can keep learning right alongside Rebecca and me. That's all I'll ask. Now, let's talk about the wire. Here's how it will go. First, the invisible river of electricity running over your garden right now. Then the French farmer who patented the wire in 1925, and the British committee that investigated him for 18 years. Then, why it all vanished when the fertilizer factories opened. Then the modern proof, a trial covering thousands of hectares that brought the old claim back from the dead. And finally, exactly how to build the copper spiral, including the one detail almost everyone gets wrong. By the end of this video, you'll understand the science the industry buried, and you'll have a garden experiment that costs almost nothing and harms nothing. Stay with me now, friend. Number 1, the invisible river. Every patch of open ground on this earth sits beneath a steady flow of electricity. The sky carries a positive charge, the soil a negative one, and the difference between them is about 100 volts for every meter you climb. It's not lightning. You can't feel it. It's a silent tide that never stops, and your plants stand right in the middle of it. Their leaves and stems, covered in microscopic hairs and wax, collect charge from the air. Their roots touch the negative pole below. Every plant in your garden is already a living antenna, bridging sky and soil. Drive a copper rod into the ground and a meter will register a faint current. Proof the exchange never sleeps, even on a calm day. The early experimenters asked a simple question. If every plant is already an antenna, what happens when you give it a better one? Number 2, the French tinkerer. Justin Christoflo was a French farmer and relentless experimenter, born in 1865, who spent decades chasing one idea: that plants could feed not only on the soil, but on the sky. On October 26, 1925, he filed a patent in Switzerland, still on record today, stamped CH118648A, for an apparatus of copper and magnetic steel plates designed to capture atmospheric electricity and channel it into the earth. He claimed oats grew 5 feet tall and dying trees burst back to life. He published his methods openly and invited anyone to come measure his harvests. Photographs from his gardens show pumpkins wider than barrels and cabbages near tall as a man. The British Ministry of Agriculture had an Electroculture committee established in 1918, and for 18 years they collected his photographs, yield records, and testimonials. Their files, stamped not for publication, cataloged it all. But no original negatives ever surfaced, no third party ever verified the most dramatic images, and the harvests hovered forever between evidence and legend. Number 3. Why it vanished. In the early 1920s, factories in Germany and America began turning out synthetic ammonia on a scale the world had never seen. The Haber-Bosch process, once a wartime secret, filled train cars with bags of chemical fertilizer. Production soared from 1 million tons a year to nearly 20 million by 1960, and the price fell from $100 a ton to under 30. But the real innovation wasn't the chemistry, it was the business model. A farmer who once buried a copper wire now signed a different contract. Buy the bags every spring or risk a smaller harvest. The subscription was built in, and a method that works forever with a single piece of wire wasn't an alternative to that model. It was a threat to it. Journals stopped answering manuscripts. Headlines called it miracle claims and eccentric methods, lumping it in with perpetual motion machines. By the late 1930s, electroculture was a footnote, boxed in as fringe science, too strange for polite company. Number 4, the proof that came back. For nearly a century, the question slept. Then researchers at the Chinese Academy of Agricultural Sciences ran the experiment at a scale no one had dared. 3,600 hectares, larger than 6,000 football fields, using wires suspended above the crops to harness the natural field between sky and earth. No fertilizer, no pesticides. The result, yields climbed nearly 30%. And here's the part that should make every gardener sit up. Pesticide use dropped by 70 to 100% in some regions. Fewer insects, healthier plants, in places where pests had been uncontrollable. That isn't a backyard rumor. That's institutional science at national scale, confirming that plants given access to the Earth's natural currents thrive on energy that was always there. Free, silent, waiting above the soil. Number 5. Build the spiral. Now the part you can do this week. Start with 14-gauge bare copper wire, about as thick as a sturdy paperclip. Wrap it into a loose spiral, 5 to 20 centimeters across. Some folks wind it around a wooden dowel, 12 to 16 millimeters wide, to keep the coil even. Give it at least 3 turns, spaced so air and light pass through. Then drive the dowel into the soil so the spiral sits 10 to 15 centimeters deep, with the top just breaking the surface. Now the crucial detail, the one almost everyone skips. The tip of the spiral must face magnetic north. A cheap compass does the trick. The Earth's telluric currents flow north to south, and orientation can mean the difference between a visible boost and no effect at all. Set the coil 10 to 20 centimeters from the base of your plant. Tomatoes, beans, and squash respond well, and leafy greens often respond most of all. One grower in Ohio logged a 40% increase in lettuce with fewer aphids and no powdery mildew, keeping every other condition the same, 1 spiral per row. Number 6, keep it safe and keep it honest. There's a line you must not cross, and I want you clear on it. The copper spiral is passive. It gathers only the gentle charge already in the air, like a weather vane gathers wind. No batteries, no power cord, nothing plugged in. There are powered systems that run high voltage through suspended wires, thousands of volts. And while the Chinese trials used such rigs under controlled conditions, they're dangerous and not for a home garden. If anyone tells you to wire a coil to a car battery, walk away. The old way is the safe way. Copper, soil, sky, and patience. Then keep records, height, leaf size, pest activity every 2 weeks, photos, and a scale at harvest. That's how a tinker becomes knowledge. Now here's where it all comes together. The sky holds a positive charge, the soil a negative one, and every plant is an antenna strung between them. A French farmer patented a copper device to tap that field in 1925, a British committee studied it for 18 years, and the fertilizer industry quietly buried it, because a one-time wire can't compete with a lifetime subscription. Modern trials on thousands of hectares brought the claim back. 30% more yield, up to 100% less pesticide, and you can test it yourself with a 14-gauge copper spiral, 3 turns, 10 centimeters from the stem, tip pointing north. Passive, safe, and cheaper than a cup of coffee. Now let me tell you why so few folks know this. Today, the world spreads over 185 million tons of fertilizer every year, while soil health declines and the prices climb. An industry built on annual sales has no shelf space for a method you buy once or make from scrap. The question was never only whether the wire works. It's why a simple, low-cost experiment was treated as a threat for 100 years. So let me be straight with you about the title, the way I always am. Triples your harvest. That's the old claim from Christoflo's photographs, and those photos were never independently verified. What is verified is 30% more yield in national-scale trials and 40% more lettuce in an Ohio garden. If you build a spiral expecting 3 times the tomatoes, you'll be disappointed. And I'd rather disappoint you now than in September. Forbidden. The science wasn't outlawed. It was quietly starved of attention, funding, and ink, which is its own kind of forbidden. An Amish science, working with what the sky and soil already give, instead of buying what a factory sells, is truly our way and truly old. Let's do the math. A season of fertilizer bags runs $40, $60, $100 depending on your beds. Every year, forever. A copper spiral costs a few cents of wire and 10 minutes of your time, and it never needs refilling, reapplying, or rebuying. If it gives you even a fraction of the verified results, it's the best return in the whole garden center. And if it gives you nothing, you've lost the price of a cup of coffee and learned something real about your soil. So here's what I'd have you do this week. Find a length of bare copper wire. An old piece of scrap does fine. Wind 1 spiral, 3 turns, and set it by your best tomato plant with the tip facing north. Mark that plant and pick a twin plant without a coil to compare. Then watch them both through the season. That's a real experiment, and your own garden will tell you the truth. And bring the little ones in on it. Let them wind the coil around the dowel and hold the compass. Children take to this work naturally. It's a treasure hunt with a purpose. What they'll learn is worth more than the vegetables, that the world runs on more than what the store sells, and that honest observation beats any advertisement. Now I'd love to hear from you. Tell me down in the comments. Have you ever tried a copper coil or some other old trick the books forgot? What happened? Share it with the rest of us. Those old ways slip away when nobody passes them on, and I read everyone. Next time, I'll show you how we keep a whole garden fed through winter with what most folks rake to the curb, the old way. It pairs with everything you learned today. Until then, look at the sky differently. It's been feeding your garden all along. Wind the coil, face it north, waste nothing, and grow more than you need, so you can share the harvest with the people you love.